Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the soon-to-be award-winning docu-series, 8-part documentary. What are we calling this, Evan? This exit interview series that we're doing on the 2025 season that is about to come to a grinding halt with the Super Bowl. What category would we submit to if we were looking at like Oscars or Emmys, any of that stuff?
Oh, that's maybe a mockumentary. Does that work?
Well, we are going to be talking about Tua and Justin Fields today. So mockumentary certainly feels very much up our alley. Welcome to Risers and Fallers, everybody. If you are watching today, this is part 7 of this little recap, this little goodbye we're doing to 2025. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFC East, a team that is the division of misfit talent, because every team has a skill position group, I think, that you would be very comfortable playing with Madden. You'd be like, I can work with this. There's talent here. You have good offensive lines. You had what I thought were some smart offensive play callers. And then you look at the overall ranks. You look at the points per game ranks. You look at the ADP versus, where they finished. Just a weird division. What are your what's your opening statement and your sentiment for this weird group?
Yeah, AFC is so weird. I kind of see this division as the ultimate haves and have-nots at the quarterback position, especially.
Yeah.
You got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league, the top 2 dynasty quarterbacks for sure. And then you have the 2 of the most just desolate franchises as far as finding their next quarterback. They're really struggling. And then I also think it's a very interesting division to talk about in terms of coaches as well.
The coaching aspect is massive because you're catching everybody's on their own orbit right now. We've talked like we'll be doing the NFC West next week, and everybody's on the come up. Even the Cardinals, I think, in one way or another, or they're already up. This division, I mean, it is just, you really nailed it. It's the haves and the have-nots. And it's really strange because I also think it's the division that people have incredible take lock on, and it's really hard for them to get on or get off of some of these players. And I'm going to have some of that as well when you're looking at guys like, it's basically potential versus reality. And you've had that with Garrett Wilson. You've had that with a Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir,
Jalen Waddle,
guys in there as well, even some fun rookie chatter. So let's just start with the baseline stuff, right? We'll give you the top down metrics. So EPA per play, the Patriots ran away with it in the NFL, number 1. Bills right behind him at number 3. And then to perfectly summarize this group of teams, Dolphins at 22, Jets at 29. Makes all the sense in the world. The EPA per pass shakes out pretty much the same. EPA per rush is a little bit more in favor of the Bills. The Patriots, surprisingly low down there. I guess when we think of this Patriot season, we're always going to remember the running back shenanigans that happened. But I guess I never really thought about the fact that they didn't have much of a rushing attack. And while they did come to people's aid in the fantasy football playoffs, the overall performance of the group was not particularly strong.
Yeah, starting with the Patriots offense, it's a really weird offense to discuss, in my opinion, because they did finish first in EPA per play. But as you mentioned, their rushing numbers are not good at all. Below 24 in both EPA per rush and rushing success rate. That's really rough for somehow the best offense in football.
Yeah.
And it's not like they have incredible receivers either. Their receivers kind of suck. But Drake May, I guess, is just that good to where he can lift a mediocre offensive line, mediocre receivers, and mediocre run game to the best offense in the league. I guess a lot of it does have to do with the schedule, that's for sure. But the headline is Drake May. That's for sure.
Yeah, they were really a strong best ball offense, I think, because you had a little bit of somebody different every game. You had nice months sporadically from different players, whether it was Booty, Diggs came on, Hunter Henry was always a factor in one way or another. And then the running backs were the running backs. And I mean, their points per game rank versus their ADP were all pretty good. Drake May, quarterback 16, finished as QB3. Ramondre, QB RB 38, finishes RB 27, and it was a very strong fantasy playoffs performer. Henderson was probably the big letdown, although at the end of the day, he only fell 7 spots behind ADP. And then Diggs punched up from 39 to 22. Hunter Henry, tight end 19, tight end 14. So going into next year, knowing that all the factors as of right now are basically going to remain some version of the same, who do you like from this group going forward? Who don't you like? That kind of thing.
It's really, really tough to say. I mean, Drake May is going to be in the quarterback one conversation. That's
Yeah.
for sure. The running backs, who knows? I
Mm,
think that Ramondre seems like a great value to me in all
mm,
formats at the moment.
mm.
I believe he's being underdrafted in the early best ball drafts. We can pull up that ADP in a second.
Mhm.
Um, and Travion is generally being overdrafted in all formats right now, just based
Yeah.
on recent history. It seems that Ramondre is just better than Trevion Henderson,
Mm.
more efficient, more successful, and he's probably going to be the lead RB1 going into 2026 as well.
Mm.
On Trevion's season, it was a very weird year. He excelled when Ramondre was injured in the middle of the
Yeah.
year for a few weeks there. But then when Ramondre came back, the usage slowly shifted from Trevion being the lead
Mm.
back into, by the end of the year, it was all Ramondre. And then we saw that go to the next level in the conference championship game, especially where Henderson barely played at all.
Yeah, it's very disappointing for someone who was looking at this Henderson breakout because there's early, maybe 8 or 9 weeks were very similar to Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season as far as
Sure.
usage, share, production, even honestly. And then the difference here is that when Gibbs broke out, he was never broke back in. And that just unfortunately was not the case for Henderson, who did have some really, really nice games to end the year from an NFL talent standpoint. I just think that under this current regime, you're just not going to get your biscuit is not going to end up being buttered. And all my notes on all these guys are incredibly boring. Diggs was a reliable vet. Booty was a big play guy. The running backs were exactly what anybody who has been through this New England running back dilemma before. It was embarrassingly accurate and consistent to the bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most interesting part to talk about is the running backs.
Mm.
Um, I do. It's interesting looking at the metrics. Henderson's metrics were very disappointing as a rookie.
Yeah.
I thought that his vision was kind of concerning. Like
Mm.
it wasn't good compared to Ramondre, and obviously the pass protection was a big disappointment as well. So I don't
Mm.
really know what to say other than I think Ramondre is the lead back going into next year, and it's currently not being drafted like that, I
Mm.
believe. Do you have that fast draft data handy?
I do. Let's take a look at it here. Drake May is, I mean, he's getting rewarded for potentially being the MVP, QB2, Ramondre, RB24, which I'm like, that's people catching on. I'm really impressed
Yeah,
with the early draft community on that one. Henderson, RB19. So that's going to be a pick your poison scenario. Diggs paying the vet price at wide receiver 43. Booty 61. People maybe want to see a little more. And then Henry's fitting right in where he has basically his whole career, tight end 16. So
yeah.
you can kind of, if you want to buy in on this offense, you're going to have several very cheap opportunities to do so.
Yeah, I definitely like Ramondre's value, and I also really like Stephon Diggs' value.
Mhm.
He put up 12.4 points per game this year,
Yep.
and he had awesome per route metrics throughout the
Mm.
entire season. But it seemed that he was on a snap count all year. It
Yep.
was either his knee or maybe it was just run blocking concerns because that's
Mm.
becoming a much bigger thing in the NFL now. Is that to be a full time receiver, you have to be a good run blocker.
Mm.
Stephon Diggs doesn't strike me as somebody who'd be super interested in that.
Yeah.
Um, but altogether, it was a pretty great season for a 32-year-old coming off of an ACL,
Mm.
and I wouldn't be shocked if his age 33 season was even better.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely in play. So I like him at values a lot there. And then Booty, I don't know. He's definitely an interesting player. I think he has a role in this offense,
Mm.
but there's not huge upside, in my opinion, for best ball. So I wouldn't be drafting him there.
Yeah, the dig stuff is interesting because he, weirdly enough, and I'm glad you mentioned, what he's capable of doing and the blocking on this team. His splits with Matt Collins on and off were kind of the difference in his boom games or not, and how they use Matt Collins specifically as a blocker, as that sacrificial X. You could kind of tell that there was a little bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Jekyll. What is it? Is it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Yeah, there's a little bit
Yes.
of that going on with these two. So who knows what ends up happening there, but I did think it was an encouraging game, and his game is aging well, truly. Just his kind of his veteran craftiness that I was encouraged. I did the write up for Diggs on our player profiler draft guide coming into the season. And I said, based upon the way he played last year and the talent on this team, or lack thereof, this was a wide receiver 2 that was going to give you wide receiver 1 spike weeks. And that is more or less what we got out of him.
Yeah, it was definitely a good year. And I hear he's a great addition to that locker room as well.
You're wearing the Seahawks. I was wearing the Seahawks hat right now. I was waiting for some a little chirping to be coming out for this performance you have up. Shout out the Suffolk County district judge who's pushed these charges out to later in the off season. But you know what? We're a fantasy show. We appreciate whatever this fantasy is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our next team here, the Buffalo Bills, which is honestly, it's just a more disappointing team to talk about, despite them really having these ridiculously great rushing metrics, overall metrics, EPA metrics, success rate, number 2 in success rate in the league. Patriots were number 4, even behind them. Another Herculean effort from Josh Allen, per usual. He was the QB1. He finished ADP QB1, finished as QB1. He's fast draft QB1. Not a lot to talk about there. James Cook was really probably the most juice we're going to be able to squeeze out of this team. A lot of people wanted to say, let's see him do it again. Touchdown regression. He had an even better season. So they built upon it, which was really nice to see. Offensive line performed very well again. He was going as the RB13, finished as the RB6 in points per game. Should we just move on to the Dolphins? I don't know what else to do here.
So Josh Allen, just another awesome Josh Allen season. Really nothing notable. It was just kind of a standard Josh Allen season. Not a whole lot to talk about. James Cook, I thought it was an interesting season to discuss in some ways, because he did see regression in his touchdown rate, but not a lot of regression in his overall touchdowns, because he was able to handle an extra 100 carries relative to 2024. That was the big difference between his 2024 and 2025, is that he just handled a lot more volume. His opportunity share jumped up over 10 percentage points. And at his size, that's something that coming into the league, nobody ever thought he'd be able to handle a 70% opportunity share. So that's the big difference in James Cook's dominant 2025.
Yeah, it was nice to see, which for better or for worse, this team had a vision on who they wanted to be, and they were kind of, stubborn about it at points in time. It did almost lead them to, still being a team we might be talking about right now. Their roster, but they have an incredible amount of cap space. So not to look too much ahead, because they did retain their offensive coordinator. I'm very curious if this is a team that can go into 2026 and say, I think we were pretty good with what we did last year. Let's just try to be a little bit better. The defensive coach is gone. They cannot go back in. They cannot roll into this next season with the offensive skill position group that they have from a wide receiver standpoint. It's just not going to work. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer, all of these, legitimately every single player drafted from the Bills this season that was a wide receiver finished remarkably beneath their ADP in points per game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one relevant one was Khalil Shakir. He did end up putting up over 10 points per game, but that was a wide receiver 4 season for him. 8.8 expected points per game, so he was significantly over expected. I found that interesting. The per route metrics were solid. I think he's a solid player overall. The lowest average depth of target by all qualified receivers, by a very significant margin, by the way. Very, very limited player. It's interesting. I don't know exactly why they use him so much, especially when they have a player like Dalton Kincaid, who they refuse to use more. 32nd in route participation among tight ends this year, but elite per route metrics. He ranks first in basically all player profiler per route metrics, and a bunch of other tight end metrics as well. He really had an incredible season on a rate basis, but the Bills refused to use him more, instead leaning more into Khalil Shakir, which I just don't really get.
Khalil Shakir is kind of one of those guys where when he has the ball in his hands, he looks like maybe one of the 5 to 7 best wide receivers in the league. He's unbelievable. His whatever metric you could come up with for aura points per catch after the catch, he would be by far number one. I know you're working on your rankings right now, so if we can figure out a way to slide that into our 2026 projections, but he is just the best wide receiver 3 you could have on a team, and he's really their wide receiver 1, and he's really comfortably their wide receiver 1 after the Kincaid stuff. So it does look like a team where you're just going to have to pivot to that position. Kincaid was an excellent value this year. He was tight end 13. He finished as tight end 12 in points per game rank, but I really feel like he got a little – the vibes that I'm getting from him are much stronger than that. And him and Kyle Pitts did a pretty good recovery job this year as far as salvaging their role as assets on these offenses.
Yeah, for sure. And going into the offseason, everyone's going to be saying the same thing. They just need an outside wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like a decent one, like one that they can give a 20% target share to. That would just be awesome.
Yeah, that's they don't have it. Did Cam Newton kill Keon Coleman's career? I'm going to say that Keon Coleman's doing that, but Cam Newton certainly would help with the eulogy. Coleman is a bum. So the chat is piling on.
That Keon Coleman situation was that with the press conference after firing Sean McDermott. they blame the coaching staff for drafting Keon Coleman, and then they hire their coach, one of their coaches that must have picked Keon Coleman to be their head coach after they just threw him under the bus like 2 days beforehand. It's just a hilarious situation.
Is this the kind of team that will do everything they can to hammer Keon Coleman down our throats in 2026? Because the hiring of Joe Brady, saying things like that, being very vocal about him, and the investment that they made in him. I mean, if it wasn't for Xavier Worthy and Xavier Leggett, dude, this guy might already be out of the league. I mean, you look at his opportunity metrics, his productivity metrics, his efficiency metrics. I truly do not know where to separate. I don't know how to assign percentage blames to these first 2 seasons from Coleman, from him, from the coaching staff, from the playbook, to Josh Allen's ability to spread the ball around. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really bad pick at the time, and then they tried to use him as just like an outside receiver that wins against man coverage, but he can't do that. You know, a lot of people thought he could have been like a power slot, but they have too many slot players already. They need to get somebody who can actually play on the outside. Now, I've been looking at a lot of 2026 mock drafts this week, and I've seen a lot of them where they have the Bills taking another slot receiver like KC Concepcion, just because that's kind of the only receiver that's on the board at that point. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, they really are the through line for, Brandon Beane, I guess. Regardless of who's really in the coaching seat, Brandon Beane does still seem to be the one who is driving the show here. And the free agent list doesn't give that. It's hilarious because the free agent list for the NFL is power slots, basically. It's a lot of those guys. So
I mean, if they could somehow get George Pickens or an Alec Pierce, that would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, man. Alec Pierce on this team would be my most drafted player that you've ever seen. It would be 100%. I would have a 100% exposure rate to Alec
Honestly,
Pierce.
Even if they could just get like Romeo Dobbs, who isn't good, but is just solid, that's kind of exactly what they need.
So let's look at the fast draft ADP real quick, and then I'm going to ask you a question here. So we've got Josh Allen continues to hold down the fort at QB1, James Cook, RB3. He's getting the performance bump. Ray Davis, who is, I only mentioned because I have 2 RB slots on here for every time we do these notes. There were people who thought this was a high quality stash. James Cook did play every game, so you didn't really get that. I didn't think he looked amazing as the season went along anyways, but he's going at RB 68. Khalil Shakir, wide receiver 47. Coleman, wide receiver 82. And then Dalton Kincaid is tight end 9. So do you like any of these? Do you hate any of these?
All of those ADPs suck, man. I was waiting for you to say one I'm interested in. Jeez.
Yeah,
Kincaid at 9 is just a little too high for me. Shakir, you said low 40s, I think. That's not interesting to me at all. I don't think he has any upside. And then James Cook finishes at RB6, and now he's drafted at RB3. There's no profit to be made there. So
sure,
I'm not really interested in any of those, unfortunately. Like I would be willing to take some James Cook and some Josh Allen and some Dalton Kincaid, but not more than just the standard 10%.
Sure. So that's in particular, that segues right into what I wanted to ask you. So Josh Allen at QB1, he's on quite the streak here of QB1 finishes. He is finished as QB1 or QB2, and we're talking he was almost QB1 in the seasons every year since 2020. We look at what just happened. It didn't necessarily feel like a home run QB1 season like we'd seen in the past. It was actually his lowest scoring QB1 season yet, which means theoretically that is the lowest QB1 scoring season we've had since 2020. So what does that factor into you taking him in these, he's QB1, but he's going at the end of the second round, basically. Are you interested in that? Do you mind? Do they need to do anything more for you to be more in on this? Or are you going to pivot to quarterback later in your drafts on occasion?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting game theory conversation because the elite quarterbacks really disappointed hard in 2025. And going into 2026, there is a dearth of good quarterbacks that I'm interested in for fantasy, like much more than previous years. So I think I will actually be fading the elite quarterbacks, which I have not been doing. I've been doing the opposite of that in recent years.
Yeah.
Because you could get somebody like Caleb Williams a few rounds later, or Justin Herbert, or even wait several rounds after that and get Bo Nix or Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott or Matthew Stafford. There's just so many good quarterbacks that are going around that like quarterback 8 to 16 range. I'm interested in all those guys. So might as well just wait. That's kind of going to be my strategy, I think.
I'm right there with you. I think that the best possible team you can build is drafting the comments perfect here. Big Cat Small Cage said, can't take Allen QB1 when Drake Mays go QB 16 plus. Yeah. Drake May is going QB2 this year, but I guess he's talking about last year when Drake May was going around that QB 15 through 17 range. And that's really it, right? The best possible team you can build in fantasy football is when you hit on a mid to late round quarterback that has that high rushing upside, super crazy efficiency. Last year you had Caleb, Drake May going 15, 16. You had Trevor Lawrence going QB 20. And you're going to have, your pick of the litter this year with guys like that. On our previous shows, we've recapped everybody, but would I be comfortable with a Jared Goff at QB 17, Sam Darnold QB 19, Tyler Shuck QB 20? I'm not saying those are the single best picks you can make, but I
can make a case for him though.
Let's guy now. We're just prick enough to recommend them. So I think that is pretty fun. And then, like you said, otherwise the rest of these Bills players are really hard. It's actually the opposite of the Patriots. It's really hard to convince yourself of a lot of these.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We will take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll talk about a poor man's trash. That sounds like a nice way to put these next two teams. Right back.
Oh, big news. Fast Draft has 2 best ball tournaments live right now. The Origins All Rookie Game for 2026. That's right. 2026 Best Ball is upon us. All rookies with Origins. $10,000 prize pool. And then we have our playoff Super Slam. You just pick 6 guys for the entire NFL playoffs and you let it ride. That one also has a $10,000 prize pool. Yes, things are happening at Fast Draft. The code is FAST. You get a $50 deposit match. Let's go.
All right. You know what? I did call them a poor man's trash, but the Dolphins did me a little favor this year. They had some guys that I really thought we could write off that held the line at certain points in time. Devon Achane obviously was probably the story. Drafted as RB7. They lose Tyreek, offensive line issues. Quarterback is insanely poor play all across the board. Still finishes as the QB5. Equally as depressing as that is positive, Jalen Waddle. I've mentioned this before. I suppose I'll mention it again. Like, we don't celebrate injuries in the fantasy football community. But was I looking at my bank account when Tyreek Hill snapped his ankle because I was in a lot on Jalen Waddle this year? I did it. I recognized that I was doing it at the time, which makes me one of the good ones. Finishes as wide receiver 30 in points per game with no Tyreek Hill, with Darren Waller out of the lineup for large stretches, and the only other wide receivers really being Malik Washington and Who else did I see on this team this year that caught me by surprise? Was it Chosen Anderson? There was somebody else on there. Westbrook Akine, that's right. 9 touches, 2024.
80% snaps every week and not getting a single target.
He was not getting those Tennessee touch. He took all the touchdowns from he left all his touchdowns in Tennessee, unfortunately. Just this offense under Mike McDaniels, I just felt like should have been better than the end result was, but the running game was not an issue.
Yeah, my overall notes for the Dolphins this year are that, number one, Tua has burnt Jalen Waddle for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, Devon Achane, another small running back like James Cook, showed this year that he can handle a much larger workload. That's kind of a through line in this division, is that Achane's opportunity share, similar to James Cook, also rose by over 10% this year. There's another undersized running back that has proven that he can still handle a workload. I think we can put all of those like 200-pound running backs. I just don't think that matters anymore. These guys clearly can handle a workload. So that's not something I'm paying attention to going forward. Sure. And then it really all comes down to Tua. He had 12.6 points per game this year, just horrible. He can't throw downfield at all, 30th in deep completion percentage, and then he can't run at all either. 92 rushing yards over the last 2 years. So yeah, that kind of ruins the entire offense when you have a quarterback that can't really do anything.
Nothing he could do. Nobody leaned into the bit more than Tua. ADP of QB 21. A lot of people probably thought they were getting a very nice QB2 in their superflex drafts. Finished as QB 37 in points per game. I don't know how that's even possible. My only note for him is that he was just a complete non-factor. He did not have it this year. And then, the backups for the running back position were fine. Jalen Wright, who I kind of thought was left for dead, had a few nice moments, maybe getting him back on the radar. Ollie Gordon obviously got me a lot of Twitter engagement for texting a certain ex on her wedding day. That was cool. Was this the swan song for Darren Waller?
I'm not sure. Maybe not, because he had a pretty good season. 9.9 points per game. The metrics are pretty good as well. I would think that there's a contender that signs him. Going in the next year, even for one reason alone, just to keep him away from the music videos.
Yeah, you know what? I think he's doing his own alternative broadcast for the Super Bowl halftime, right? I think it's on upn.com or something like that. I don't even know if that's still going on. It's funny. He kind of is. Darren Waller has been and will always be the reason that we can never call early to mid-20s athletic tight ends busts, because this guy can be out of the league and have a Darren Waller profile, which a lot of these guys do. And then he can be retired or off making music, off avoiding assassination attempts, paying alimony to his WNBA lovely ex-wife, come back in. And as long as he's on a good offense with only one or two other talented players, he advanced me in several leagues in the playoffs. I mean, he still had it.
Yeah, no, he really did. And it shocked me. I thought he was going to come back and basically be a corpse, but he actually looked pretty good. I thought that can't really say a whole lot about Tyreek this year.
No,
I'll say that he had great metrics pre-injury, looking like he was maybe going to be a smash Tyreek year, but then tore multiple ligaments. So I don't even see him this year. We'll see. And then Jalen Waddle, I know that he was very disappointing relative to what we thought he might be able to give us, but the per route stats are still really good. I feel like I'm saying this for 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
Fantasy disappointment, but the per route stats are still good. And I'm probably going to be in again next year, depending on who they get at quarterback. And speaking of that, I wrote down that I think Malik Willis is literally their best option and their only option. If they don't get him, then they're screwed.
Screwed indeed. Let's see here. I'm going to break some news here, or at least I don't know if it's considered breaking news, but talking about this Jalen Waddle per route stuff here, I'm going to Jalen Waddle, if he can stay healthy, if he can stay on the field, and if he can get with a quarterback that can consistently deliver him balls, I think that he can still be maybe that like wide receiver 14. And you know what? On the right team, I could still see him really, really easily being a wide receiver 1. The caveat being that he does have to be able to stay on the field. But Evan, you're going to love this. I was going through my Twitter request DMs that I don't look at I don't think I've looked at them in like 6 months because they don't show up as for flag for me. And I was like, I wonder if, anybody's reached out, because sometimes you do get funny ones. And then I saw this. Does it show?
Cracked me up when I saw that. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I did. I sent it to the group here, and let's get the media. I forgot that I sent that to our group chat. Woody Marks hit me with the nice stat, bro. And he hit me with that in November, which is the really funny.
You just kept doing it over and over.
Yeah, I probably did it 4 or 5 more times after that without even recognizing it. And here's my question, Evan, is I don't know what to say. Usually I'm like pretty witty, or I can, eat humble pie. But he did it in such a classy way. He hit me with the salute. I don't know how many more times he saw that. Chat, if anybody in the chat wants to reach out to me with a nice response to Woody Marks, who got me through some tough times this season, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I don't have a fantastically witty response for you, but I don't know. He was pretty genuine. Maybe you could be genuine as well.
I think that's what it's got to be. I'll send him a picture of me at my lowest and be like, this is who you're dealing with here. We do have a quick little chat question here. Beef Boy wants to know, got offered Achane for K9 and a 2026 mid first. Is that a smash? Sauce Cartel chimes in and just says, as long as he's healthy, he'll be a 20 point per game player, even with the coaching change, which I agree with. I do think that I think even if he's at the lower portion of that tier, he is in the tier talent-wise for me with Bijan, with Gibbs, with those guys. And he chimes back in here as well as could go crazy with no Zach. So how do you look at this little K9 in a mid-2026 first versus Achane?
I think that's a pretty fair value. I would probably need more team context. Like if you're not a super contender, then maybe you want to split the asset into 2. But I think if you are a contender, or if this is a shallow league, if it's a 10 team, start 10 or something, which is very common, then I would just take the Achane side for sure. So I would need a little more context, but it seems like a relatively fair trade on paper.
Yeah. Just one of those things where we try to evaluate these with as little context as we can, but that does feel, I'm with you. I think what we've seen out of K9 revitalizes that a little bit, but then of course you're always going to have the what's going on there. He says soft rebuild, 8th place team. I think that backs up what you're saying.
Yeah. To me, you want to look at the depth of your league. How many starters are there? How many teams are there? If it's like a 12 team start 10, then I think you can make a case either way. If it's shallower than that, you should go Achane. If it's deeper than that, you should go the K9 on the first side.
Yeah.
And then, just talking about Achane going forward, I think it will be, it won't be quite as easy without Mike McDaniel, because I thought Mike McDaniel, and he took this running offense to another level this year, despite pretty poor O-line play and coming off of a really rough 2024 for the running game. I was super impressed by what McDaniel did this year. So I'm not 100% sure that Achane is going to remain the difference maker, although he has all the talent in the world. It's going to be very hard for him to get another season of a 20% target share without the same coaching staff. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Dolphins, so they bring in Jeff Hasley, Packers defensive coordinator, and they promote Bobby Slowick from senior passing game coordinator, which is just like, they just had to have him on the payroll somehow, and giving him senior passing game coordinator must have been it. Bobby Slowick, of course, most famous for being run out of Houston, with all of their struggles, comes to a team that I think but the interesting part about that is that there's a chance to retain some continuity from what they've done in the last year into this next year. So if that's a good place to build, I don't think there will be a lot of expectations on this team. And I actually really like that when there's talented players who kind of just get to go out and ball. There's a little bit more cohesiveness to the team. So hopefully those all end up being good things for Achane, who I'll be snagging a lot of in drafts.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see who they end up with a quarterback. That'll affect it a lot. Should be Malik Willis.
Sure. That would be a blast, truly.
Yeah. Outside of, we should get to the next team, because I have the quarterback options for the next team are even bleaker.
Oh my gosh. We really do have to talk about them, don't we? Yeah. All right. Well, you know what?
Unfortunately.
Let's let the Third Reich begin here we'll move on to the Jets. The New York Jets, who have retained Aaron Glenn, who was one of the weirdest post-game interviews of all time. Celebrated dancer on the sidelines in games that he ended up losing. Just incredibly, just an all-time gap year from a team that is having a gap decade. All of their EPAs, success rates, they all match the eye test. Justin Fields was probably the biggest home run week one. We celebrated too early pick for anybody who drafted him. QB 13 off the board. And you know what? It made sense. I think that was fair. I don't look back at that and feel like a huge mistake was made. Finished as QB 22. Could not throw the ball. Cannot pass is the only note that I have for him. Breece Hall is an interesting one for me. RB 16 off the board. Finished as RB 21. I don't know how good Breece Hall is. I know that he's not bad. I know that for a fact. I know that he's a starting running back in the NFL. Going into this season, I had him in my top 10 RB Dynasty ranks. And I don't even know if that is wrong. This is a free agent. But all I heard from NFL pundits that I respect, and I try not to quote directly because I don't know if they want their name coming out of my mouth, but there was a lot of optimism around the Jets offensive line this year, and it did not translate to production in the backfield, the production that I wanted to see.
Yeah, they did have some injuries. Overall, I am somewhat bullish on the offensive line, at least. I don't really know what to say. I'm right there with you with Breece. He is solid, at least. He might be good. I think he's good. I don't think he's great though. I don't know. He was fourth in breakaway run rate. Some of the other metrics don't look great. The receiving workload did take a hit this year. You see some work to Isaiah Davis there. And Braylon Allen was out for most of the year as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if his workload took another hit next year. I don't know. I'm expecting him to stay on the Jets.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you thought talking about Breece was interesting. I don't think anything with the Jets is interesting.
You know what? That's a really good way to put it, because he might not even be a Jet. So maybe that's how we wiggle out of that. Yeah, it really was the stars aligned for him to have a better year than he did, with Braylon Allen being out, who was a popular handcuff pick. He was a popular if something happens to this guy pick. Justin Fields had proven to be decent for running back production in the past. Offensive line step forward. Perhaps it was just the overall ceiling of the offense coming down, because Garrett Wilson had another Garrett Wilson season where wide receiver 17 in points per game, overall finish in the 60s because of the injury. Really, he went lower than 80. He finished lower than ADP technically, but who was throwing in balls back there? I mean, it was just an absolute no-show. He was in the Terry McLaurin zone that I just hate for anybody talented to be in. And unfortunately, this was the fourth year in a row where if you drafted Garrett Wilson, you weren't happy with it.
Yeah, but I don't think any of those 4 years are his fault at all.
No, I will immediately co-sign that statement. Immediately.
He's so awesome. I don't know, man. Get him out of New York. I guess I did also write down Mason Taylor's name. There's nothing next to his name, but I did write it down.
Participation, yeah.
I don't have a ton more to talk about with this 2025 Jets. Garrett Wilson was awesome. Breece Hall is probably good. They couldn't throw the ball. The coaching was just a total disaster. I think the Jets are cursed in a way. I did go on the Mind of Mansion a couple weeks ago, and I actually mentioned that I'm somewhat optimistic about the Jets' future.
Yep.
And then right after that, they announced that they were going to hire Frank Reich. So all of that disappeared. Although I will say that I'm not totally giving up. I think in 2027 or 2028, the Jets might be okay.
You know what? We're going to be the first people we're going to be the first people on a podcast to say that, you know what? The Jets might have a bright future. That feels like a nice place to be. Yeah. You look at Frank Reich's overall coaching seasons, and there was times where he did a lot with a lot of high talented players. And then there were times where he kind of scraped by with very little talent. And now he's working with probably the most difficult situation he's had. Although his last year in Carolina, he was not working with a whole lot. So he has been an offensive coordinator or a play caller, at least, let's say, for about a decade. And his average finish is about 11th in yards, maybe 17th in points. And then you look at if they retain Breece Hall, they have Garrett Wilson. All they need is the quarterback. But you know what? We've been saying this for 10 years with this team. All they need is the quarterback.
Yeah, even more than that. I guess maybe there was a year there where they thought maybe Mark Sanchez was the answer. I think that's I guess there was probably a year where they thought Darnold was the answer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I just feel this fan base, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Football is supposed to be fun.
It's pretty dark because it's not
dark.
It's not like like I'm sure there's a lot of people that have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall in their top 10 as assets. And Mason Taylor didn't do a lot last year, but he was a first round pick. He's got talent. And you look at the QB free agent list. Daniel Jones, technically, Malik Willis, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Pro Bowler Joe Flacco, Marcus Mariota. They lose Tyrod Taylor in free agency. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in here that you could say this guy would make this team better than what they had last year. I don't think any of those quarterbacks do it.
No. Here are the quarterbacks that I wrote down as legit possibilities for them this year, because I don't think they're going to get Malik Willis.
Yeah.
So I think that their best options are Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Mitch Trubisky, and Trinidad Chambliss, who is who really, really wants to play in college for an 8th year. I also wrote down the name Zach Wilson, and I remembered he was drafted by the Jets. So that one's off the table. So Mariota or Tyrod, those are my top two.
Why don't teams do the prodigal son approach more? I never understood. Like, you know what? Let Zach Wilson, he's gone and he's played under Sean Payton and he's played under Mike McDaniel. Like, who else could you want him to have gone and played for before he comes back and shows that he can throw the football?
But unfortunately, whatever quarterback that the Jets roll out there this year his career is over immediately. As soon as he takes one snap for the Jets, his career's over.
That's a tough pill to swallow. New York, what a place.
And it also reminds me of the Giants hiring Matt Nagy, another just super uninspired hire that is going to fail miserably.
All right. Would you rather be for the next 5 years a fan of the Jets, the Browns, or the Raiders?
Oh, Raiders. Give me Mendoza.
Because of Mendoza?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I shouldn't have said that. That's why
Jets
I said them last.
Browns, though.
Okay, Jets or Browns. Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, man. I think I don't even know what to say, man. I'll say Browns just because I like Shador.
Yeah.
And I like Harold Fannin.
This is a very pro Harold Fannin podcast.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add.
I have one more that I wrote down, and it's kind of hard to talk about because he hardly played for the team this year, but he did play for them, and I think he's talented. I just don't know if will we get any more? How much Adonai Mitchell talk are we going to have in 2026?
Probably too much. Well, actually, definitely too much. Definitely too much.
So a lot. Okay. Because
hopefully they draft a receiver, so we just don't have to talk about him.
He made what I thought was the definitive play of 2025, which was that unbelievable one-armed grab, spin out of the tackle, all the way to the goal line and drop the ball across it. And I don't think I'll ever forget it for the rest of my life. And I just wonder, like, what would that guy look like when he didn't have to compete with Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, and Alec Pierce, and he only had to compete with a Garrett Wilson with a quarterback that can deliver the ball? Like, how much cope do I have right now?
I think there's a chance that Adonai Mitchell is good. That possibility exists. Yes. Are we going to see it in 2026? Definitely not.
Somebody out there needs to check their inbox. Trade is on the way. We do have a nice little question here to round up this little episode we're doing here. Got offered Scattaboo for Kyron straight in a 12-man
smash.
Yeah, this is if you had tuned in to our episode last week, we sacrificed animals to Cam Scattaboo to appease the fantasy gods. We're very high on him. We love what the Giants are doing. Take note, Jets. Giants are doing it right. Fast draft ADP on just to give you a little, what's the early market vibes on these guys? Kyron, even on that Rams offense, RB17, Scattaboo on this Giants offense, coming off that ankle, RB20 right there behind him. Now, I know you're talking Dynasty, but that's just to give you where drafters still are viewing the savior of New York.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not going too far in on the Giants because, like I mentioned, they did hire Matt Nagy, and that's
that
going
was
to be
prior
a
to Matt
disaster.
Nagy, wasn't it?
Yeah. But Scatabo is just awesome. You have to go with him for sure. He's clearly more valuable. But yeah, Matt Nagy is going to ruin the Giants. I think the Harbaugh tenure is going to be incredibly disappointing in general. People are really excited about it. I think it's going to be closer to Pete Carroll than it is to Mike Vrabel.
So you bring up Matt Nagy, and that gives me an opportunity to remember that Tariq Cohen existed.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if Cam Scattaboo can be the first guy to combine Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen in one body. We're doing a little bit of a throwback hour here on Risers and Fallers, but you just don't get to think about these guys as often. Tariq Cohen was in my life for a few years, and he's been gone.
Yeah, and yesterday I was thinking a lot about Mitch Trubisky. I think that he could potentially be the next Geno Smith. A great pickup in your deep Superflex Dynasty leagues.
Mitch Trubisky has played for the Bears, the Steelers, and the Bills. That was the Bears before they were who they are now. That was Buffalo when they're going through that. That is a guy that is carrying around. He's seen some shit.
He has seen some shit.
Awesome. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for our 7th episode. Friday, we'll be doing the NFC West exit interview. Potentially could be coronating one particular team in the single out, and Evan might be wearing that team on his head. Wouldn't that be lovely? We'll do some Super Bowl predictions then, just to kind of put a nice little bow on this team. So, Evan, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
You can find me on X at Evan Ringler FF. All my work is at playerprofiler.com, rankings, analytics, and the like. And then content on the channel you're on right now. And then go play on Fast Draft. We currently have the Super Bowl Super Slam live right now, as well as the Rabbit, which is our full 15-round best ball contest, and Origins, a 6-round rookie only contest. That there's a lot of expected value to be made there. So go play on Origins.
There is. It's going to be a big year for Fast Draft. I'm really looking forward to all the rollouts here. The wife's not loving the bank account being directly funneled into it, but you know what? Once payout season comes around, we're looking real good. Meatball says, shout out. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Shout out Meatball.
Showing up.
Appreciate
Thank you guys for showing up each and every week. As always, I am Chuck Bass. We will see you guys on Friday, and cheers.